Hi, it's Will at Practical Performance Car here, and I'm with Adam New and his very shiny looking MGB GT, which looks outwardly quite standard, but it's not, is it, Adam?
No, it's very, very different. It's undergone quite a lot of modifications. It started out life as a bare shell back in 2005 in bright orange,
Right.
or I think it was called vermilion red.
Yeah.
Then unfortunately it was whilst it was advertised as restored, a few years down the line I discovered it was not.
Right, so it's quite rusty then.
It was, yeah. I had to replace 36 panels, so the entire car was brought back to bare metal. It was put up on a rotisserie.
So you made a rotisserie, did you?
No, actually I borrowed one from a guy in Milton Keynes.
Right.
And yeah, he very kindly lent it to me, and then we got it up in the air, rotated it 180 degrees, and so I could get all the. It had a lot of underseal on it, covering up a lot of problems. So I had to get all of it off.
That's a nice job, isn't it?
It took about 2 weeks to get it all clean,
Right.
and it was constant work. Then I started to strip off all the external panels and things, finding rot underneath the wings. So I had to replace all the seals, the lower sections of the wings, all the rear wings had to be replaced. They had 1/4 inch of filler going down the entire length of the car.
Right.
I went for about 8 doors before I could find some that actually fitted semi-decent. Multiple tailgates, again, to find ones that either fitted well or weren't full of filler.
Right.
And the bonnet was steel when a 68 car should have an aluminium bonnet. And it took me 3 or 4 bonnets to find one. Well, I didn't find one that wasn't full of filler. So I had to go to Moss and get a brand new one, which was...
That must have been quite spendy.
Yeah, it was in the 4 figures for an aluminium bonnet, but I wanted it right.
Yeah, okay.
The steel bonnet is really heavy. And I just, I thought
Now, there's a story about, it was something to do with your mother who was keen on these cars, isn't it?
Yeah, so she, it was her idea for me to get it as a sort of side project.
She liked the cars then, did she?
I guess so. I mean, she liked cars anyway. She didn't like MGBs in particular. It's just that a friend had one that he was selling,
right,
as a restoration project, but it was pretty rotten, and right. In the end, and also it was the earlier version of this, which had a 3-synchro gearbox, so it had a different transmission tunnel. It's a little bit harder to. I like modifying things, so I didn't want to modify a Mark 1 GT really.
Right. So let's come on to these mods, because you haven't got an MGB engine in here, have you?
No. So inside it's a 2-litre Ford Duratec,
right.
Which was originally. So this is actually my second Duratec. The first one came from a Ford Fiesta ST150. Right. But that was standard, with just some homemade throttle bodies using the Emerald ECU, and that gave me about 170. Well, it was 175 horsepower, right? But a decent amount of torque, 174, because they were quite small throttle bodies because they came from a motorcycle. Right. Then I got bored because it wasn't fast enough, so I got this.
That's
engine.
Already, you know.
That was already quick, yeah.
Well, it's a standard MGB like 95 if you're lucky.
Yeah.
So it's already considerably more powerful.
Yeah.
It wasn't enough.
No. So I always wanted to build a really proper semi-race engine, high spec engine. Right. So I got this engine came out of a Ford Mondeo, but it's the same block. But instead I fitted K1 Technologies forged rods, Supertech forged pistons with 12.5:1 compression ratio.
Wow, that's hard.
So you have to use decent fuel really. In the cylinder head, it's got K1 Technologies bronze valve guides, Kent cams, which have 11mm of lift, 280 degrees duration, so it's quite a hefty cam. Yeah. Lightweight flywheel, AP racing clutch. Everything was fully balanced. Director head throttle bodies from Genv, and I had to have the exhaust completely custom made to the car, right? Because there was nothing that would fit, nothing. No. So that was very expensive as well. But it's done and it works.
And you got our good friend Dave Walker to map it.
Yes, so Dave mapped the first engine. Which is where the first Type 9 gearbox that I put on, that
so
failed.
That's a Ford Sierra type gearbox.
Yeah. But I used the V6 version because first gear is taller, and you can actually get, in second gear, it will do 77 miles an hour. Right. So it's you can get up to speed really quick, without having to change gears. But yeah, the first one failed and it snapped, and the tail housing snapped, dropped all the oil on his rolling road, so I felt a bit guilty. And he did actually mention it in the magazine, Practical Performance Car magazine.
Did it? He wrote about you?
Yeah, that was back in 2011.
Right. He's probably forgiven you by now.
He has, yeah. He's got a new rolling road since then.
Yeah.
But yeah, this
That's
engine.
Why?
Yeah. This engine was tuned just outside Brands Hatch race circuit.
And what does this do?
This one is 230 horsepower.
Wow.
And I think it's 180 foot-pounds of torque. I always remember the power, I can never remember the torque. Yeah. It's not a torquey engine, it needs revs.
And what does it rev to?
At the moment, the red line set to 7.5.
Right.
It can go to 8, but when you look at the power curve, the power starts to drop off just after 700.
Oh, does it? Right.
So it's pointless going to 8 because you're just stressing the engine unnecessarily, really. So, so I don't bother because it's predominantly it's a road car that I use for occasional track use. So it's been to Nürburgring.
It's not a trailer queen then?
No, it's not a trailer queen at all. I mean, there's little chips and things in the paint. The paint's only a couple of years old, but it gets driven hard. But the rest of the car, nothing on it is standard.
Well, you've done something to the back axle location.
Yeah.
For the start, haven't you?
So the rear doesn't have the cart springs anymore. It uses coilovers from a guy called Bill Guzman in the USA who designed it. Right. And I basically copied his design in a way because a friend of mine, he had the same conversion on his car, but it burnt in a fire. So he gave me, all that was left really was the brackets. So I got the brackets for it, made the trailing arms myself, which isn't that difficult to do at all. And then Ray Design supplied the coilovers, so it's got gas rear coilovers. Right. So we just measured them up, and it worked. And the rest of the car, it's got a limited slip diff from Quaife in the back, which works really well. So you can do nice burnouts with it. Yeah. You get proper 11s going down the road. It's got a line lock, so I can lock the front wheels to warm the tyres up.
It's really not very MGB GT at all, is it?
It's not.
A line lock.
It's not. On the front, it's got negative camber wishbones.
What about the brakes?
But I put Wilwood 4-pot aluminium calipers on the front. The discs are vented as well and cross-drilled. They're also ducted as well. So the front spoiler on this is called an ST spoiler. Yeah. You can get it from MG Owners Club and everything. A lot of cars have it, but I'm quite lucky that this one is one from an actual guy who supplies the racers of these cars, and it has the built-in ducts, which most of them don't have. So so I've got they actually work. They do duct to the brakes and they keep them cold. I've driven it on Brands Hatch, Nürburgring things. I've never had a problem with the brakes.
Well, that's good.
The rears are discs as well, which I used Volvo discs from a V40. Right. And then I made a bracket to suit a MGF caliper, so the handbrake works. Right. And it's and it holds as well a lot, which the old drums on this car didn't.
So it's a proper driver's car then, isn't it?
Yeah. It's got 7/8 anti-roll bar, which is twice as thick as the old one, I think. It's got a Ron Hopkinson shock absorber conversion, so it doesn't have any lever arms at the front. Right. It's a centralised tubular shock absorber. Right. You can get a conversion where it's on the side, but that means the suspension is going to get twist because you've got resistance on one side, whereas this is centralised, so it's a little bit more effective. Well,
it sounds like it should drive really well.
Yeah, it
does. I think it was time we went for a drive in it.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Adam. Great car. Thank you. A lot quicker than my supercharged one. Quite scarily so. Thanks very much for bringing it along.
Pleasure.
If you've enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe and share with your friends or people you don't like or people who are completely ambivalent about. Really doesn't matter, just share it please. And you might consider becoming a Patreon member, which supports us and helps us to keep making these videos. It starts from £2 a month, which is, well, it's almost nothing, isn't it? So yeah, please do that and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Bulgarian passport control. So the car's Armenian registered, which is complicating.
Insurance, green card.
I'm going to get it here.
Sorry?
I will buy it here.
You will buy it here if we let you go.